I see your reactions already. Let's pick this one. Ishak Omolo says, how can you sign something that you can't read and understand? Are they forced to sign? These are the questions that we are also asking this evening, and we say that you can keep engaging us as much as possible. TV47 Kenya, we sample some of your comments as we continue. We still have Chris Otieno, security expert, and Bosco Mutegi, Korea, who's a policy and governance analyst. And the conversation this evening is on the opportunities and risks abroad, in particular Russia and Ukraine, if you'd want to call it. Before we even get to understand the irony of signing a document that you do not understand, because then we want to blame it on the desperation aspect and perhaps so many other things. Chris, we come back to you.
Yeah.
At what point does an agency penetrate the military organ of such a massive country as Russia? And we're talking about something as, that would be equivalent to Kenya's DOD, to a point where they can proceed to go there and say that they're ferrying human beings that are going to support the Russian military, importation, exportation of these individuals. I mean, what is this? Who is involved? What is this that we do not know? And why is it that these agencies actually are allowed to function and to work in the country to a point where we already have individuals abroad, is when the government then realizes this and actually takes charge?
I think, and for a fact, that majority of these agencies are full of unscrupulous people. And these are people willing to go to any extent to have their intention covered. If you would assume that these were human trafficking syndicates, you would not be far from the truth.
Yeah.
Because their modus operandi is not in line with what our government has put down as a registration of a company doing this kind of business. We've seen what our government has said. These are not legitimate businesses. These are not legitimate businesses. So what are we telling ourselves they're doing here? They'll go to the Russian market. Of course, a lot of interconnectivity because of industrial Internet of Things. Of course, they'll find a partner out there. They'll partner together. They will sophisticate their modus operandi. They will sophisticate their objective and be able to achieve that through what they are doing right now. Even despite the fact that a lot of this information is out there in open source, all right, we still see Kenyans getting involved, 12 of them being arrested in Athi River on their way to Russia. We have seen a lot of cases of our fellow Kenyans going abroad, for example, Saudi Arabia, to look for employment. They come back in caskets. This is not information that is hidden. It is available in the public domain. Nevertheless, even despite that, for example, like TV47 has highlighted quite a number of these incidences,
right,
we still find Kenyans going out to find this kind of employment. So what could be the issue? Either they are being lured in depth, a lot of promises that are unbelievable. And when they see it at face value, they say, this is my breakthrough. Let alone Ukraine and Russia. Right. We have Kenyans being lured the same way, going out in Somalia to join Al-Shabaab and many other terrorist syndicates. Why is this happening? Like we say, it is interconnectivity of things. A lot of things are connected to enable or allow our Kenyans to get themselves in that space. And also out there, Russians. We know money, everybody in this world has a price. So if you get somebody the price that you are looking for, favorable to you, out there in Russia, you can pay up the price. If the Russians come to Kenya and find somebody has a favorable price, which they can afford, they buy. So it's a business for them. And they don't mind trafficking human beings. They don't mind luring them. They don't mind lying to them. They'll give them all sorts of reasons to have them get down there. When they get down there, the environment changes. You're now being forced, you're being taken, forceful recruitment and forceful labor for you to go to the forefront. Even despite the fact you have no knowledge of how to handle a gun, how to take combat positions, or even how to be a combatant. They have no idea. But nevertheless, they're still taken to the front.
But what's the wisdom in that if Russia is going to look at this critically and if they're targeting to win the war? How do you bring on board an individual who's green? Perhaps they would want to take them through some training before that?
The kind of training I think they are offered is 1 or 2, 3 hours, which they equate to sufficient. And that's not sufficient. Like I said there before, Kenyan cadet officers undergo military training for about 24, 26, 28 months there.
Yeah.
It's a long period because a lot of things to be learned before they become combat ready. Even before they get deployed, they have to go through areas where there's a lot of conflict for them to actually experience the battlefield and how it is. And these fellow Kenyans look like what my brother said, Evans, an athlete going out there, being lured by a sports agent that you're going to make you go and find you a very good job. He goes there. Next time, his passport was confiscated. He doesn't have his phone, doesn't have his papers. He goes to the war front.
Right.
We didn't know how to handle an AK-47. We're basically telling ourselves these Kenyans are being sent to their death trap because they're being sent to the front line. And front line is not somewhere you want to say that you're going to have an easy time. That's a bullet. When you hear the sound of a bullet, you survive. You don't hear, you're gone.
Right.
So it's a really terrible area. Those who survive come back to Kenya, a lot of psychological trauma. Impossible to think the kind of conditions they are going through, the kind of situation, medical or non-medical, what they're going through. It's really terrible. So we need to spread this word to Kenyans and tell them, Kenyans, don't go outside of this country if you are lured, like what my brother said, with a visit visa being converted to a work permit or something like that.
Okay.
It does not happen like that.
Okay.
Let's stay home, let's find our solutions back here at home, and we can progress right here at home.
Okay, and Ishak is asking, are they forced to sign? I mean, what would be the standard way of practice? Like you say, you have worked abroad. Before you proceeded to work there, you know, you've gotten this opportunity. Is it that you traveled there and then you got the opportunity from there? Or you got the opportunity while you're at home? And what are some of the things that you looked at, you know, in terms of the contracts, in terms of understanding what you're signing up for before proceeding abroad? Because while it could be lucrative, because then we're talking about 2 million upfront, which most of the times they say then they actually don't even get it. The agencies get the larger chunk of this amount of money. And well, just getting to hear that you can get 200,000 a month is basically what you would want to hear. So this could be music to your ears. But what do you look at before you board the flight to the other side? Or do you wait until you get to the other side to look at this contract that you can barely read?
Let's start with the basics. Let people and Kenyans understand that the word there is ruthless. If you go to a country that you don't know their language, you don't know how to speak to anyone, they confiscate your phone, your passport, you're done. So you need to have a plan even before you go there. You asked me on my case, I had a former employment from here to go to the European Parliament. I used to work for a member of Parliament as an assistant. Mine was well structured.
Okay.
And why I'm saying that is, if I've seen people, even people from other countries like Congo, Togo, and all that, in such a place like Belgium, for example, because that's where Brussels, that's where the headquarters of European Union is. I found them having challenges because the places they work, outside there, in the European Parliament, used to use English and French. But at least I speak English. But outside there, you cannot find any other job you can do because there's no way you can use any other language. Because now when you are, not unless, even if you are tech, for example, an IT software person, you at least need to know basic language to communicate to the next person.
Right.
So Kenyans need to understand before you leave, the moment you leave the flight at JKIA, you are now, when you land to the other country, you are now under the laws of that country. So any mess you make, you are on your own.
Okay.
Now, what I wanted to say about how the government should help our people is this. Let's start with what I said as bilateral agreements. Let the bilateral agreements be watertight, be clear from the beginning, how they will absorb the country will absorb our people, when they work, how is the exit plan, when they have challenges, how will you help them? There should be continuous monitoring of the challenges that our people are having. I have seen, by the way, the government has really improved. When you look at the challenges which we are having at UAE and previously, I have seen people, I have seen even agencies saying openly and rescuing people. There's something even, a Kenyan who is listening to me in whatever country they are and they have a challenge, they should know there's something called emergency travel visa. And that is a document just issued by the embassy recommending that either you lost the passport, you lost your job, you don't know your people, and you are a Kenyan.
So that is in the event that you wish to come back home.
Exactly.
You have gone there and things are not working good.
Because our people perish for lack of knowledge, for lack of information. There's someone out there suffering, and they don't know they can visit the embassy, say, explain the events, and they can be helped. We have seen people being helped from UAE and other countries, and it's happening. So the support, there's a link that is there with our embassy team that is helping the people who are in other countries. But the link is not really strong, need to be improved, need to be increased, because every person needs to be known where they are in those countries. What I think should happen is there should be a joint vetting of these embassies, these agencies. And our organizations here, the DCI, the EACC, all the Ministry of Labor and all that, they should work together and also work with the employers, the country of the employment, so that they're able to vet properly these people, vet even the employer who is giving the job, big in case of anything. And when there should be a good plan. When this person lands in that country, they should be well mapped by the embassies in case of help. And even if you go there without even using a legitimate embassy, Kenyans should know when you land in that country, introduce yourself to the embassy. Let you be known that you are here and you're doing ABCD. It helps a lot.
Okay. I mean the country.
Yeah.
Because you see, it's not the first time that we're talking about what the government should do.
Yeah.
You know, what NITA should do, what the Ministry of Labor should do.
Yeah.
And there's this acknowledgement by governments, actually, or the security agencies that, you know, the investigations point to a well-coordinated recruitment scan, with actually some of the main players being senior people in society. When we're talking about senior people in society, we certainly are maybe thinking about politicians, or we're thinking about leaders of the nation. Are we headed anywhere with this kind of fight? Because then, like we say, we have been hearing these cases, unfortunate cases of our girls going to other countries and they lose their lives, or they come back home, you know, in devastating states. But this in itself is a notch higher. So are we headed anywhere with this level of coordination that we keep talking about, such that then we can streamline, you know, the activities of people actually traveling abroad? Because look at what, you know, the Kenya Kwanza government has faced, you know, in terms of, you know, creation of jobs abroad. Equally, the government has been faulted because there were government-to-government arrangements that actually never you know,
It is a difficult thing to really think about or to fathom, but as soon as you get to hear that higher people in society are involved, then you're telling yourself that that is now the pathway towards which these kind of deceptive recruitments are finding their way into the light of the day.
Yeah.
Why? DCI, of course, interagencies, or many other agencies that are involved in the internal Ministry of Interior, they ought to know what is happening in this country, pick them up, and where we find that there are criminal activities, they need to be prosecuted, and that kind of a thing terminated as fast as is possible. Why would they proliferate? You have said it rightly. When that market is dominated by people who have very high rank in society, or they have a lot of money, they can buy their way out, definitely we're telling ourselves that these are the guys who will now oil this kind of crime, and that crime will just flourish without any interruption from whoever. Because they will buy their way. They'll buy the bosses. They will buy the senior people. Those people, they can reign over those persons who have authority in those kinds of agencies, and they'll not do anything about it. So we are basically telling ourselves, from what we are seeing, right, this is a deceptive recruitment, and why this has been brought to the forefront, maybe something somewhere went wrong. And like we said, and we continue saying many times, the biggest problem in our country is corruption. When you can buy your way into anything, be it criminal, be it clean, as long as you can buy your way, then that kind of an activity will find to see the end of the day, or the light of the day.
All right. You want to say something?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
So I wanted to say something. When you look at it wholesomely, I think we also have a role to play as a society. These things are starting way 10 years, 5 years ago.
Yeah.
We started, Kibaki started a very robust campaign on free primary education. We have constructed universities in each and every county as we speak. And we have trained, in this country, we have 79 universities as we speak. We have around 2,300 TVETs, and which is a good thing, actually. My point is, let's train our people things that are aligned with the job market. Because if people are trained with like in TVETs, with the skills that they can be able to employ themselves, they can be able to do things that are practical, this issue of unemployment would really come down. Because what I'm saying this is our universities, like when you talk about TVETs, it's a good thing we are having TVETs, but the attitude of our people, of our young people also needs to change, and we need to understand that. I was excited when I saw April of this year, the Ministry of Education and the AG made recommendations to the Committee of Parliament on Education to think about how to inculcate or to put together national values and good governance principles in our education system as a subject that which will be examinable. If I can remember when I was growing up in primary school, we had the loyalty pledge. Why sometimes it's getting to a point that someone feels they are no longer patriotic to their country is because these people, they never even gotten these values from the primary, secondary as they came up. I'm not saying people are going to other countries because they are not patriotic. What I'm saying is we need to have that patriotism to know that you can make it even in your own country.
Yeah.
That excitement of being lured by other people in other countries to go for a job there without even signing a contract which you don't even know the language, you don't know the kind of job, you don't know the culture shock you will find there. Before even you catch up, you're already messed up.
Right.
So we need to look back on our education system. We need now to focus more on the TFETs, things which are practical. We have trained so many graduates in degrees which are not even sometimes making sense in the job market. I may not mention them here, but that is what is happening, because a person who is a teacher, for example, who has a child, teachers of themselves have gone to school, did masters, PhDs, but they have not seen sometimes something, salary increment or what they expected. Someone has invested over 1.5 million, for example, to take a child to a degree course in KU, in GOtv, wherever. Then, all of a sudden that you and the child, you are there at home, there's no job opportunities, but also starts with us, with the parents from the beginning, because we always tell our kids, get number 1 from nursery, from you get to class 8, then do your grades nicely, go to secondary, so that you get what? Employment. We should have, we should change all this, recalibrate our children mindset to the extent of thinking, I can finish my degree and start a manufacturing farm.
Right.
I can finish my degree, start industrialization, start my own craft that is authentic, that can employ me in my own country.
Well, the question would be just how favorable is the environment for that, but that is story for another day. Story for another day. Senior, this is a security concern, and we know that the Russia-Ukraine war has been an international security concern without doubt.
That's right.
What then would be the place of the international space in such occurrences, in such cases being reported, not once, not twice, and they are being labeled illegal because the procedures that are underneath, getting these officers are truly not meeting the international security standards. How then can they come in to cut such?
We have a very clear global security structure.
Yeah.
On the part of police, you have international police, Interpol. We have United Nations Security Council. Now, these are very firm bodies. These are very good bodies that can really help us in bringing down these kinds of offenses. But then, what you find in the, for example, UN General Assembly, UN Security Council, you find a fight between different ideologies, the Western ideology and the Eastern ideology. Most of the time, they're never together.
Okay.
If it is Russia that is leading a front against a certain veto or a certain vote, it will take the day.
Right.
If the US leading a certain item, it will take the day. A good example is what is happening right now in Gaza. The other day we found that only US and Israel voted on a certain block, and the rest of the world voted on this other block. But what happened? US and Israel took off the day. Now that's another problem that we have. When you come to Interpol, they also become limited. You want to investigate a case here in Kenya, and the mastermind of that case is a senior person in society, all right? What happens to you? Look at the case of what happened to Julie Ward many years ago. What happened to that case? Things went the way they went, and we got to where we were. So as long as the international security structure is there, but there is no local, all right, what do we call this? Willpower to enable this or to enable the process go through, those crimes will continue to be there. And we need to be aware of one thing. US has said, if Russia attacks Ukraine, they're going to go in. Basically telling us the situation might worsen in the coming days. If Hamas does not honor the peace deal that we're having, it might even be worse. What are we saying? More and more Kenyans could find these as other lucrative job opportunities and find themselves out of our borders into those countries to support the labor requirement that is out there. So we really need to sit down and relook at our points of exit and our points of entry and make sure no Kenyan leaves having been deceived by another person to go out of the country to participate or get themselves involved in labor that has not been passed through that as right by the government.
Okay, all right, interesting. We now have some of the individuals that were culprits, or perhaps some of them that were, caught in this mix. And they have luckily found their way back home, maybe not in the best of, state. What do you suppose, the country should, do in terms of getting more information out of these victims, out of this little source of information, so that the same does not recur. Because if we're looking at some of the agencies that have been mentioned, they have contracts that would span up to 1 year. And therefore, they have probably just gotten 2 months into it. So the contracts are open. And if they were keen enough, or they were lucky enough to actually conduct this and, you know, to get Kenyans into the other side, then they can be smart enough to continue with the procedures. What does the country need to do? What does the government need to do to nip this?
I think, as I said earlier, I agree with my colleague here. There needs to be a reintegration strategy. There needs to be a very good way of doing counseling to these people when they come back. We need to find a plan on when they come back. How do we cushion their emotions? How do we cushion what they have lost? How do we help them build blocks again and stand up again and be important people and feel the dignity that they deserve as Kenyans? Under our constitution, when we talk about the Bill of Rights that talks about good health, good education and all that, let the government have a clear plan on how to receive these people when they come back. Right. Also, as I said, when they are on the other side, before even they get an aircraft or a way back to be brought back here, let us have a way to try, first of all, to cool their emotions. If there's a way our embassies out there can help them get other jobs also, legal jobs that can earn a good living for them. Let us have such ways, because this is what is going to help our people. And also, what is also important is public awareness. Right. I may have given examples today on what you should not do, what you should do on the issue of getting a work visa in your hand before you board that aircraft. But there needs to be more that needs to be done by the government on the issue of public awareness. Let our people, as the government markets and campaigns for this mobility, or rather the migration to other countries, let the people understand, let the government make people understand what are they getting themselves into, and what are the repercussions if you go and misbehave in someone else's country. What are the repercussions if you get yourself signing into documents you don't understand. And let them also understand when they are there, they should live as communities. And most importantly, talk to the government of Kenya in that country, which is the embassy, and also try as much as possible to be within the laws when they go to those countries.
Okay, and we certainly trust that, again, the government itself has data or the numbers, you know, proper understanding of the numbers of Kenyans who are now working, at least as at now, in Russia, maybe in Ukraine, those ones that are there validly, and also now with these illegal cases.
But leader, the apparent thing also comes in when you live in a foreign country, you make yourself an agent, you recruit my sister or my brother, tell him I work abroad, I can facilitate you to come with a working visa. You know that one, the government might lose count of these people, only that they should trace using immigration.
Okay, well, it boils down and it goes back to the government. As we close,
exactly.
Senior, your parting shots.
I think there's one thing that we are doing very well in TV47. We are spotlighting this event that's happening in the national arena, and we're making Kenyans know this is happening. This is part and parcel of the control mechanism that we require. To add to what my brother said, we need to run simultaneous measures. And one of the measures in the simultaneous approach is these persons who have come back, they need to be subjected to a lot of investigative questions. They need to be questioned and questioned until we get to know exactly how these syndicates work. And once you have that information, we must go out and bring in countermeasures. How do we completely wipe out these kind of guys who are doing illegal business in our country and subjecting our Kenyans this kind of inhumane training, inhumane life? If they are traffickers, if they're human traffickers, if they're deceptive recruiters, or if they're luring Kenyans with failed jobs out there, then something needs to be done that's in line with our laws to include deregistering them completely and even taking those guys, jailing those guys who are really practicing this kind of an action. It needs to be a collective thing and a wholesome approach to ensure that no Kenyan goes out there and becomes stranded or becomes a slave. This to me is almost an equal thing to slavery. You go out there and you're in the hands of the next person. They can do whatever they want with you. We need to work like the Indian government, Ministry of External Affairs did, negotiate diplomatically the government of Russia to make sure that all the Kenyans who are serving there legally or illegally find their way safe back. Find their way back home safely.
Thank you so much. Your parting shot.
Let us have our homemade solutions for our unemployment issues with our youth. Let us try to secure the youth who want to go out there. The government needs the foreign direct investment, which they are getting from the jobs that our young people are getting, but also let's have dignity for our people when they go out there and even when they are here. The government needs to create more jobs, create good environment for the private sector. The government cannot give jobs to all these young people, but let it create a good and working environment that the private sector can employ as much as many people who are unemployed in this country.
Okay. Bosco Mutegi, Cura, Policy and Governance Analyst Asante Sana, as well as security experts Chris Otieno, and you back at home for contributing to the conversation. We can only hope that then this becomes a game of the past, but also with that critical reminder, before you get yourself into something, please consult. Please, take your time to do research so that we all do not have these stories that really are quite sad and unfortunate. We have to close the broadcast at that very point, the TV47 Weekend Edition, but the conversation continues on our socials. Let's keep it going across all our platforms, TV47 Kenya. We will be glad to hear from you as we look forward to see you again. Make sure that you keep it right here. My name is Linda Lela. It was great having you as we close the broadcast, appreciating the entire team for making it a success, as well as a sign language interpreter, none other than Ruda Nyamai. Do have yourself a lovely night. See you again next Sunday.